السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. Today we're doing a Sahabi by the name of Muʿādh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Muʿādh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu is a remarkable companion of the Prophet ﷺ for a number of reasons. He's actually also one of, I know I say this about a lot of the companions, but he's actually one of my favorite ones from my childhood. I just like the name a lot, and just what you hear about him is just really remarkable. He accepted Islam at the age of 18 years old. He was amongst the 70 who came at the pledge of Aqaba, and they came to the Prophet ﷺ. Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu participated in all the battles. He was about 21 years old during the Battle of Badr. And then he was also in all the expeditions in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he's a very handsome young companion, dark black eyes, and he's known for abraq al-thanaya. Like his teeth were really, really white. I mean, now we have all these little whiteners and gels and these things. But in those days, if someone had really white teeth, like people actually, well, yellow tone was the default for a lot of people. But Muʿādh bin Jabal, his teeth were very bright and white, and that was one of the first things people noticed about him, smile. Some people, Allah's blessed them with a beautiful, bright smile, that the moment you see them, that's a hallmark quality of them that you end up remembering, and it stays with you. So Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he's in Madinah Munawwara, he's from the Ansar, he's from the helpers, the one that the migrating Sahabah, they came. And he was paired with Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. And Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu is known for his brilliance, for his intelligence. And Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu is like Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, where he also is incredibly brilliant. And the Prophet ﷺ says about him, أَعْلَمُ بِالْحَلَالِ وَالْحَرَامِ. Out of all the companions, he's the one that knows about halal and haram more than anybody else. So you know when you're about to eat that bag of chips, and someone's like, but did you know, like, wait till I finish. But Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was known for being the person who was the most knowledgeable when it came to halal and haram. He was amongst the scholars. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, al-ummat al-qanit. This man was like an entire nation by himself. He was very modest, he was very generous, and again, he was a very beautiful person. The moment you saw him, he left an impression upon you. And one of the unique things about him is that there are about 70 companions of the Prophet ﷺ who rode on a horse or a camel or a donkey with the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning that when the Prophet ﷺ is on a horse or a camel or a donkey, there's only one spot behind him. So basically a coupe is sunnah. There's only one seat behind the Prophet ﷺ. And there's about 70 companions who sat with the Prophet ﷺ on this conveyance. And they're recorded, and they'll talk about their interactions and their stories with him. One of them is Muʿādh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Muʿādh bin Jabal frequently was on the back seat with the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet loved him a lot, to the point that the Prophet ﷺ, all of us say we love the Prophet ﷺ. We all say this, and we hope this, and we hope the Prophet loves us too ﷺ. But Muʿādh was special is because the Prophet ﷺ was dispatching him to Yemen as a governor. And as the Prophet ﷺ is dispatching him, the Prophet ﷺ walks with Muʿādh. And the Prophet ﷺ goes and he says, Ya Muʿādh, inni uhibbuk. Muʿādh, I love you. Inni uhibbuk, I love you. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, Muʿādh, لَعَلَّكَ تَمُرُّ بِمَسْجِدِي وَمَقْبِرِي. I also want to just make a mention that the next time you come by, you won't be seeing me, but you'll see my masjid and my grave. So he doesn't tell the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasul, let me stay in Medina longer. I want to spend the last moments with you. He knew his mission. We have to spread the deen. We have to spread khair and goodness everywhere we can. So he says, Awsini ya Rasulullah, give me advice. And how many of y'all ever traveled by yourself alone, outside of your home? Like whether it might be a camping trip or it might be a long vacation to a relative's place, meaning you left your parents, basically. Most of you guys, what do parents tell you when they're letting you go? Eat and drink and make sure you look after yourself and, be comfortable and dress up well. You're going outside the house, they put on extra jackets on top of you and extra, your eyes are being shown, let me cover your eyes. COVID time, triple mask. They want you to be as comfortable and as safe as possible. So what does the Prophet ﷺ tell this one companion that he loves? He says, Ya Mu'ādh, Iyaka wa tanarum. I'm letting you go, but I just want to warn you against the luxuries of this dunya. فَإِنَّ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ لَيْسَ بِمُتَنَعِمِينَ. For those who are close to Allah, they're not indulgent in the luxuries of this dunya. They know that they have a purpose and a goal, and this world and this dunya is finite, and the hereafter is infinite. And whatever is in this world is temporary, and whatever is in the hereafter, it is forever and it's everlasting. And those who are close to Allah, they don't indulge. The Aisha radiallahu anha says, أَوَّلُ بِدْعَةٍ, I mentioned this last week, أَوَّلُ بِدْعَةٍ حُدِّثَتْ بَعْدَ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم الشِّبْعُ. The first innovation after the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم passed away was that people started eating to their full. Overeating. You go to a buffet, you go to the buffet and you're just there, just stacking in the buffet. I paid $15, $25 at Jimmy's, so I need to make sure that I get my amount sorted out. And the Prophet ﷺ warning him. And then the Prophet ﷺ tells him that ittaqullah haythuma kunt. He says, Ya Rasulullah ﷺ, give me more advice. The Prophet ﷺ says, be aware and fear Allah wherever you are. Think about this with yourself. When you leave home, be mindful of Allah wherever you are. But is that easy? What ends up happening? We forget, and what do? We commit a sin. So the Prophet, he says, Ya Rasulullah, give me more advice. And the Prophet said, وَأَتْبِعِ السَّيِّئَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ تَمْحُهَا. Anytime you make a sin or a mistake, follow it with a good deed, and the good deed will erase the bad deed. And then he says, Awsini, Ya Rasulullah, give me more advice. And the Prophet says, وَخَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. You see, Allah will forgive your faults and mistakes, but people won't. So his last advice, or the third part of his advice to Mu'ādh is, when you meet people, meet them with the best of character. Because people don't forget. People, you can do 1,000 good things for people, and 1 bad thing, or 10 bad things, and they'll remember the bad you did, and they'll forget all the good. And they'll paint you with the legacy of how bad you are, forgetting all the good you've done. And Allah does the opposite. We do 1,000 bad things to Allah and a few good things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks upon us with the good that we do, and He finds excuses to forgive the bad that we do. So Mu'ādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu is a very special companion. He passes away in the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu in a very famous incident. Does anyone know what that incident is? He passes away in the first pandemic. It's called Ta'un Amwas. Amwas is a town in Jordan. I actually have been there, and I've seen the grave of Mu'ādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. There is a unique fragrance that emits from there. They claim that nobody puts fragrance there, and Allah knows the truth of it. But there's no doubt that there is a unique fragrance that emits from the grave of Mu'ādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu in Amwas. I went there in the winter, so it's very snowy, very beautiful. And I went and I saw all the way in a corner of Jordan he's buried, miles away from Madinah Munawwarah. His advice is again, this was a man, he was a man of knowledge. He was a scholarly man. He was a man who liked to learn. He was a man that liked to grow. So Mu'ādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, his first advice is تعلموا العلم فإن تعلمه لله خشية. Seek knowledge, learn knowledge, for the learning of knowledge is fearing Allah, is being aware of Allah. The more knowledge you have, the more aware you're going to be of your Allah, of your God. You won't do the things you're not supposed to do. You'll do good things that you're supposed to do, is because you'll be constantly aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're driving. Someone cuts you off. Your nafs tells you, I want to cut them off. I want to maybe swear at them. And then you remember that nobody's watching me, but Allah's watching me. فَإِنَّ خَشْيَةَ اللَّهِ. And it makes you reflective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَطَلَبَهُ عِبَادَةً. And the seeking of knowledge is an act of worship. You're not praying, you're not standing up, you're not bowing down, you're not giving charity, but seeking knowledge is one of the highest ways a person can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمُذَاكَرَتَهُ تَسْبِيحٌ. And when you sit with your friends and you talk about the deen, this is tasbih. Tasbih is remembrance of Allah. Like dhikr, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, you glorify Allah. The same way, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the remembrance of knowledge, when you're talking to one another about the deen, this is like tasbih, and you're praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْبَحْثُ عَنْهُ jihad. And to debate the deen, to actually go and to stand up for what is right, this is jihad. Now, jihad isn't only just with the sword or with fighting. There's jihad bil lisan, there's jihad bil qalam, there's jihad with the tongue, with the jihad with the heart, jihad with the Prophet ﷺ said, al-mujahidu man jahada nafsahu, that a person going to jihad is also a person who strives against their vain desires and their passion, but rather goes and doesn't succumb to it, but fights against their impulses. This is also considered a jihad. And then he says, وَتَعْلِيمُهُ لِمَنْ لَا يَعْلَمَهُ صَدَقَةٌ. And to teach knowledge to the person who doesn't know knowledge is charity. They say if you feed a person fish, you feed him for a day, but teach him how to fish, and you fed him for a lifetime. That's charity for other people. Spreading your knowledge, spreading the good that you're doing, that's charity. And we know college students are generally broke. All the student loans. But this is charity you can afford. Always share goodness and share advice and wisdom with the people around you. Ad-dinu nasiha. It's not the property of any single individual. Yes, don't start going and giving fatwas and starting your own little YouTube channel and all of those things. But to people around you in your network, give them advice, give them the good that you hear. You owe it to them. If you see a person, they're walking down the street and a car is coming towards them, you're going to yell and tell them, a car. Are you going to stay at that time? No. If I yell at that person, they're going to get upset at me. You do you, I do me. It's good vibes only. They'll have no vibes once that car goes. So you have to warn people, so you have to help people, assist people, and do it with wisdom. Obviously, if a car is about to hit someone, there's a severe situation, that's where you yell. Over there, you don't sit there and be like, brother Safwan, there is a car approaching you. By the time that guy turns around, the angel of death will be there for him. At the same time, if you're in a regular scenario, someone's eating food, they're eating with their left hand, don't yell at them, be like, right hand is sunnah. Balance it out, right? Know where to use what tone. وَبَذْلُهُ لِأَهْلِهِ قُرْبًا. And teaching your family is an act of good deeds to Allah. It also brings the family closer. Like as a family, you should sit down, have a book, and every day read one page from the book. This is called ta'aleem, by the way. And the scholars, they emphasize this quite a bit, that every day, the whole family should sit together for even 5 minutes, even 2 minutes, one time a day, read a page of a book, ta'aleem, and rotate between each person. Let them read, because we are a nation. What was the first command that our Allah said to us? Iqra, read. That was the first command given to us, read. And we just became a nation of listeners. Podcast, Spotify, all of these things. We don't read. The only things we read is the caption on the TikToks. That's about it. But beyond that, we no longer read. Every person should have 2-3 books that they're reading. Reading opens the mind. Reading grows you as an individual. I'll just listen to the audiobook. Read. Learn to grow proximity with books. Everyone should have their own little library, or big library for that matter. 5 books doesn't count as a library. But like everyone should have like books, they should be close to their books. لِأَنَّهُ مَعَالِمُ الْحَلَالِ وَالْحَرَامِ. Because knowledge will teach you what is right and what is wrong. وَمَنَارْ سَبِيلُ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. It is the light to the path towards the people of paradise. وَهُوَ الْأَنِيسُ فِي الْوَحْشَةِ. It is a companion when you have anxiety, when you feel like you're scared. Anis means the one that comforts you. It's a comforter, not like a blanket comforter, but like your knowledge gives you hope. I was telling the story of my friend whose mother passed away. He knew that his mother isn't gone forever. He knew that he's going to see her again. And despite him spending decades with her, and he told me, his words were very powerful. He was like, I have no regrets when it comes to my mother, because not once did I make her upset. Not once did I fail her. I have zero regrets with my mother. And he had full conviction that his mother was in a better place, and he didn't shed a tear. The man loved his mother so much that he never hurt her. But on her passing, he doesn't shed a tear because he genuinely believes. Anis is someone who comforts you. Your knowledge, if you know, then your knowledge will comfort you. If you know that this world is finite, and you know that this world is going to end, and you know that the pleasures of this world are not eternal, that will comfort you. And any loss that you have, you'll be able to overcome it. But if you don't know this and you don't have that belief, every small loss or big loss will shake you and make you think that the world is ending. Your world is just beginning. There's just few days here. And the hereafter is forever. It's eternal. You stand at the doors of the abyss of eternity. And that blows us away. وَالصَّاحِبْ فِي الْغُرْبَةِ. It's a friend when you have nobody. Your knowledge tells you how to connect with your God. The knowledgeable person is never lonely. The one who has knowledge is never alone. They grab their book, they're sitting, they're reading. Nerds, why don't they have friends? All jokes aside. They don't need friends. They're sitting with Socrates and Plato and this chemistry and biochem. They don't like, the rest of us who don't like reading, we're always craving for human companionship. From friends, to be on a call, but the one who reads, the one who seeks knowledge is never bored, is never alone. They always have someone with them. Their book is their companion. They're always reading. They find comfort and solace in there. That book isn't going to backbite you. That book isn't going to slander you. That book doesn't have a dirty heart about you. That book is genuine. Make friends with things and people that aren't going to hurt you. Make friends with objects and people that are going to benefit you, not the other way around. وَالْمُحَدِّثْ فِي الْخَلْوَةِ. And knowledge is a voice when you are by yourself. When you start doubting yourself and you start to feel that things aren't going right, your knowledge is there. When you don't know who to turn to, your knowledge guides you. But in order for your knowledge to guide you, you need to possess it. You can't be sitting with an empty area of knowledge and hope your knowledge to guide you, but you have to strive and learn. وَالدَّلِيلَ عَلَى السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. And it is a evidence on what is good and what is bad, a good time and a bad time. How do you know if you're in a good time or a bad time? Knowledge guides you through that. Because at one point, you could be thinking you're in a good situation, and that could be the worst decision for you. And sometimes you can be in a bad position. You think that this is bad for me, but it's actually good for you. And your knowledge tells you that whatever the moment today is, it's not the final moment. You don't know the future. How many times did something bad happen to us and we thought it was the end, but that ended up being a good thing for us? Does that not happen often? The Prophet ﷺ, take him for example. If he never left Makkah and was never banished from Makkah, we would never know about Medina. Everyone who's been to Medina will tell you, Medina, my heart falls in love with it, and I love Medina, and Medina is this, and Medina is that. And they'll talk about Medina. But that Medina was built off of the pain of the Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet didn't get stoned in Taif, Isra and Mi'raj would not take place. We're in the month of Rajab right now. The 27th is when some scholars say, according to some opinions, that Mi'raj took place. It was this time where he was stoned. And had that not happened, his ascension would have never happened. What does that teach us? That when you get your Taif, your Isra is about to happen. Come to the Isra. But your Mi'raj is about to happen. Your ascension is about to happen. When you're at your lowest, Allah will raise you. But don't lose hope, because that's what Shaitan wants to do. He wants to rob you. Satan wants to rob you of your hope. And he wants you to feel despondent in Allah and God's mercy. وَالصَّلَاحُ عَلَى الْأَعْدَاءِ. And it is a weapon against enemies. People cannot like you, people can hate on you, people can say whatever they want. But what the knowledge that you possess is what defines you. وَالزَّيْنْ عِنْدَ الْأَخِلَّةِ. It's an adornment. You shine amongst your friends. The smart person, the knowledgeable person, the one who knows, is the people that friends turn towards. No one goes and asks the dumbest person in the squad for advice. I mean, I don't know why you would. Like, you go to the person who you think is the wisest. You become the gem in the entire squad because of your knowledge. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَقْوَامًا. Allah raises people, فَيَجْعَلُهُمْ فِي الْخَيْرِ قَادًا وَأَئِمَّةً. And He turns them into leaders of good and people who are followed. تُخْتَصُّ آثَارُهُمْ. Their stories are told. وَيُقْتَدَى بِأَفْعَالِهِمْ. Their actions are followed. وَيُنْتَهَى إِلَىٰ رَأْيِهِمْ. Their opinions are held in high regard. تَرْغَبُ الْمَلَائِكَ فِي خِلَّتِهِمْ. The angels desire to be their friends. You know when you stepped out of your home to come and seek knowledge over here, what did the angels do?
Asking for your forgiveness.
Okay, one step before that. What did they do?
Pray for you.
Pray for you. Okay, one step before that.
Come with you. Come with you.
Come with you, kinda.
They lay their wing like every footstep.
They lay their wings down for you to step. Ridwan, out of honor. Like angels who don't sin at all. Like that's the value of knowledge. Knowledge turns slaves into kings. And turns kings into slaves. There isn't a person who isn't wealthy or a CEO or powerful anywhere in the world that does not have advisors. That needs to have people that they can seek counsel from. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even he had people he would take advice from. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah tells him, seek counsel from the people around you. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ. Once you've made your decision, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Then put your trust in Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. Allah loves those who trust Him. We haven't even finished the first advice, by the way. So this is continuation. وَبِأَجْنِحَتِهَا تَمْسَحُهُمْ. Their wings are put underneath them. يَسْتَغْفِرُ لَهُمْ كُلُّ رَطَبٍ وَيَابِسٍ. Every dry and every moist tree asks Allah to forgive them. وَحِيتَانُ الْبَحَرِ. The fish in the sea. وَسَبَاعُ الْبَرِّ وَالْعَامِ. The animals on land. لأن العلم حياة القلوب من الجهل. For knowledge brings a ignorant heart to life. ومصابيح الأبصار من الظلم. And it brings light. And it brings light to a person who is blinded, and it gives them guidance. يبلغ العبد بالعلم منازل الأخيار. A person's station and ranks are raised and elevated because of their knowledge. They're respected. You see a little boy, he becomes a hafiz, you put him in the front to lead the salah. You stand behind him. People older than him, people his grandfather's age, great-grandfather's age, everyone is standing behind him and praying behind him. Why? Because of the Quran that Allah has put him in his heart. Knowledge changes people. Knowledge is a great tool. It's a great weapon. And he says, وَالدَّرَجَاتُ الْعُلَى فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. The higher the degree you have, well, not always true, but not throwing any shade on anybody, but knowledge definitely does define you. التفكر فيه يعدل الصيام. Reflecting on knowledge is like fasting. ومدارسته تعدل القيام. And teaching it is like standing up in prayer. به توصل الأرحام. Through it, families are brought closer because you have that emotional intelligence. وبه يعرف الحلال من الحرام. Through it, a person can learn what is right from wrong. وإمام العمل. When you have knowledge, it guides you to do actions. وَالْعَمَلْ تَابِعُهُ. And the actions follow a person who gains knowledge. يُلْهِمُهُ السُّعَدَاء. The people who are fortunate, Allah gives them knowledge. وَيُحْرِمُهُ الْأَشْقِيَاء. And He takes the knowledge away from the people who are unfortunate. I'm going to go a little quicker through this. And a lot of this stuff is self-explanatory because we still have a lot of his advices to go through. But it's very reflective. The man was a man of knowledge, and that's what he advised other people as well. By the way, for those who are students of, like, advanced students of knowledge, and for just academically, those who are listening, وفي إسناده كلام وليس هذا الحديث مرفوع عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ولكن عن كونه موقوفا عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وعن معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه فيه الانقطاع من السند وفيه جهل أيضا. For those who were listening, they got that. For the rest of you, just move on to the next point. Muʿādh ibn Jabal رضي الله تعالى عنه says, إن من ورائكم فتنا يكثر فيه المال. There's fitnas, there are trials and tests, and times are about to come where wealth is going to be abundant. The amount of wealth we have is like we have more. Bro, literally you can go and summon the temperature of the air you want to blow on your face inside your car. Kings of the past didn't have this luxury. And you can literally summon it at will. ويفتح في البيت حتى يأخذه المؤمن والمنافق والرجل والمرأة والصغير والكبير والعبد والحر. Believers, hypocrites, men, women, young, old, free, slaves, everyone will have access to the Quran. And then what's going to happen? فَيُوشِكُ قَائِلٌ أَن يَقُولُ. Then people will begin to say, مَا لِلنَّاسِ. What's wrong with people? لَا يَتَّبِعُونِي وَقَدْ قَرَأْتُ الْقُرْآنِ. Why don't they follow me? And I have studied the Quran somewhat. مَا هُمْ بِمُتَّبِعِي حَتَّى أَبْتَدِعَ لَهُمْ غَيْرَهُ. They're not going to follow me until I don't make up things and create stories for them. فَإِيَّاكُمْ وَمَبْتَدَعْ. Beware of the innovations. فَإِنَّ مَبْتَدَعْ ضَلَالًا. These new things that are added into the religion, this is misguidance. وَأُحَذِّرُكُمْ زَيْغَةَ الْحَكِيمِ. And I warn you from those preachers who deviate. May Allah protect us one and all. I'm talking about myself first and foremost. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانِ قَدْ يَقُولُ كَلِمَةَ الضَّلَالَ عَلَى لِسَانِ الْحَكِيمِ. Sometimes shaitan puts words of deviation and misguidance on the tongue of lecturers and wise people. وَقَدْ يَقُولُ الْمُنَافِقُ كَلِمَةَ الْحَقِّ. Sometimes hypocrites and bad people say true things. قال, I said, Mu'ādh, ما يدريني رحمك الله أن الحكيم قد يقول كلمة الضلالة وأن المنافق قد يقول كلمة الحق. What are you talking about? How can a wise person say something wrong and a hypocrite say something right? He said, of course, اجتنب من كلام الحكيم المشتهرات. Beware of the famous celebrity speakers in these things. التي يقال, the ones who say ما هذه ولا يثنين كذلك عنه. The ones that just will make up stories and say things that have no academic background to it. فإنه لعله أن يراجع. Perhaps that person will turn back. وتلقي الحق إذا سمعته فإن على الحق نورا. And wherever you find truth, listen to it and absorb it, for knowledge is light and nur, and let that nur guide you. Mu'ādh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu says to his, would say at tahajjud time, whenever he'd wake up in the early hours, 3-4 a.m. to pray to Allah, he would say, Allahumma qad namat al-uyun. Allah, the eyes have slept. Wa gharat al-nujum. The stars have begun to twinkle and fade away. Wa anta hayyun qayyum. And you're the ever-living, everlasting. You never sleep. You never slumber. You're always there. Allahumma talabi lil jannah bati. Oh my Allah, my desire for Jannah is slow. وَهَرَبِي مِنَ النَّارِ ضَعِيف. And me running away from hell, it's weak. اللهم اجعل لي عندك هدى ترده إلى يوم القيامة. Oh my Allah, give me such guidance that will guide me on the day of judgments towards you. إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. For you do not break your promises. There's two more and then I'll summarize a few of the points. Muʿādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu told his son, يا بني إذا صليت صلاة فصلي صلاة مودع. My son, when you pray, pray salah as if it's your last prayer. لا تظن أنك تعود إليها أبدا. Do not think for even a second that you will get another chance to pray, but this is the last prayer of your life. Pray every prayer like that. وَاعْلَمْ يَا بُنَيَّ. And my child, know one thing. أن المؤمن, that a believer, يموت بين حسنتين, dies between two good deeds. حسنة قدمها, a good deed they have already done. وحسنة أخرها, and a good deed they said they were going to do. Every person dies between two good deeds. A good deed they have done already, and a good deed they said they were going to do. There are so many things that you think you're going to bring change into your life. It will only remain a hope. But you'll never change because you always delayed it. The only moment that you can guarantee is this second right now. But the moment you guarantee it, the second is gone. There's no guarantee you will make it home. There's no guarantee you'll wake up in the morning. So take the moment and do as much as good as you can. Because a time will come when you will die, and you will die in your heart, hoping that you've done a lot more good than you actually did in this world. And speaking of death, when Muʿādh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu was about to pass away, he said to people, it was nighttime. Remember, he passed away in a pandemic. So pandemics are tough. Plague, it's tough. Sickness, what's going on, no cure, everyone. The situation is like 30,000 people died in that plague. In Darun Amwas, 30,000 people died. It was insane. And when he was on his deathbed, he turns to the people around him and says, Umburu asbahna. Look, is it morning yet? They said, no, it's not morning. A little while later, he said, Umburu asbahna. Is it morning yet? He said, not yet. Until some of the light started coming into the horizon, and you could see that morning is about to approach. And he was told, قَدْ أَصْبَحْتَ. Now it's morning. He says, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ لَيْلَةٍ صَبَاحٍ حَهَا إِلَى النَّارِ. He says, I seek protection from Allah from a night who in the morning a person ends up in hell. مَرْحَبًا بِالْمَوْتِ مَرْحَبًا. Welcome, death. Welcome. زَائِرٌ مُغِيبٌ. The unseen visitor. حَبِيبٌ جَاءَ عَلَى فَاقَ. A friend who has come to me in my greatest time of need. Allahumma inni qad kuntu akhafak. Oh my Allah, I used to fear you. فَأَنَا الْيَوْمَ أَرْجُوكَ. But today I desire to meet you. Allahumma innaka ta'lam. Allah, you know. Inni lam akun uhibbu dunya wa tul al-baqa fiha wa tul al-baqa fiha li jari al-anhar wa la li ghars al-ashjar. Allah, I didn't want to remain in this world so that I could build more and have a bigger house and a nicer car and more money in my account. The only reason I desired more life, لِضَمْ الْهَوَاجِرِ, so that the people who are abandoned, I could look after them and feed them. وَمُكَابَدَةِ السَّاعَاتِ, and few moments of difficulty. وَمُزَاحَمَةِ الْعُلَمَاءِ بِالرَّكْبِ عِنْدَ حَلَقِ الذِّكْرِ, and to accompany scholars and go wherever I can to seek and gain knowledge. And that was his final moments, and then he passes on. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said, Man ahabba liqa Allah, ahabba Allah liqa'ahu. وَمَنْ أَبْغَضَ لِقَاءَ اللَّهِ أَبْغَضَ اللَّهِ لِقَاءَهُ. Whoever loves to meet Allah, Allah loves to meet them. And whoever hates to meet Allah, Allah hates to meet them. That's a different state to be in, to be ready to go, to welcome death. And that only happens when you live a life worth sharing to everybody. The Persian poet says, when you were born, you were crying, and everyone around you was smiling, and they were happy. Leave this world in a manner that everyone around you is crying, and you're smiling and happy. How many people are scared to die? Almost everyone here. And the heart that's content that I can leave any time. I fixed my affairs with humans and with my Creator, with the creation and the Creator. Ramadan's less than 60 days away. Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. Fix your affairs. Be ready to exit any time. You'll live a happier life. Be scared to die. That means your life isn't right. If you're scared to leave this world, that means that what you have here is better than what you have waiting for you there. And the one who is ready to die knows that what is to come is much better than what is here. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We'll take some questions, inshallah, and we'll follow by dua.